Hi and welcome to this week's episode of Talking Fertility on Facebook Live, where I'll be coming to you live every Monday morning at 11 a.m. talking all things fertility. If you haven't met me before, my name's Tasha Jennings, founder of Conceive Baby. I'm a naturopath, nutritionist, natural fertility specialist, and author of The Fertility Diet. And today I'm going to be talking about a topic which I have found myself talking about a lot this week, and I thought was really relevant to talk about. And it's really going back to basics and talking about how reproduction happens, what factors need to align for reproduction to occur, and why it doesn't always happen. And also why that doesn't necessarily mean that anything is wrong. And I'll also talk about how to stack the odds in your favor so you can increase your chances of conceiving and carrying a healthy baby. So I find there is a common misconception that if you're fit and healthy, that pregnancy will come easily. I think we've been told from a young age how easy it is to fall pregnant. It can even happen by accident. It's that easy. But on the flip side, when you do actually want to fall pregnant, this doesn't necessarily mean that it will come easily. And it doesn't necessarily mean that anything is wrong. There are so many biological processes going on inside the body for conception to occur. For two cells with two different DNA, two different genetic material from two different people to come together in such a way that fertilization occurs, that a new life is created, to come together in such a way that a new heart starts beating. I find this process absolutely fascinating. And I think we know the concept in general, but to understand exactly what is happening inside the body really helps give you control over your fertility and know that you can influence the health of that egg and sperm every step of the way. So I guess to start with, biologically, as women, we are born with about 1 million potential eggs or follicles that we're born with in utero. So they develop in the mother's womb. So there is some research at the moment as to whether we are actually capable of creating eggs after birth. But for the purposes of this discussion, that's still an unknown science at this stage. At the moment, that number is pretty much fixed. We are born with about 1 million potential eggs. And these begin to decline pretty much straight away, unfortunately. So by the time we hit puberty and start menstruating, we're generally down to around 300 to 400,000 of these potential eggs or follicles. Now, during the menstrual cycle, about 100 of these potential eggs or follicles will begin to develop. And this development process takes about 90 days, which I'll go into a bit more detail. But about 100 of these potential eggs or follicles will begin to develop and try to develop into a mature egg. By the time each month comes around and the monthly cycle begins, that number's down to around 3 to 30. And that's an average. Obviously, it's a very broad range. It depends on a lot of factors. But generally around 3 to 30 of these 100 potential eggs that started the journey will be continuing into the menstrual cycle. Now, by the time ovulation occurs, there generally is only one dominant follicle, and we start with 100, and we get healthiest, and produce that dominant follicle, which is released at ovulation. And obviously it can be multiple eggs in the case of multiple birth, but generally one dominant follicle or egg is released. So, from this dominant follicle, we have all these eggs that start the journey, and then we have this one dominant follicle, which is the healthiest one that our body is able to create. And the reality is that around a quarter of these eggs that you release at ovulation aren't viable. So they aren't capable of making a baby. And this is even in healthy women. Up to a quarter of those eggs that you release at ovulation aren't viable. So even if you are ovulating, you are fit and healthy, chances are that only 3/4 of the eggs that you release will be able to create a baby. Now, if you're over 40, this number increases to around 40% that aren't viable. And there are some studies that show that around 70 or 80% of the eggs that you release after 40 aren't viable. So I guess, and if you do release this egg after ovulation and it makes its way down the fallopian tube, it actually only has a life of around 24 hours. So the egg is only viable in your system for 24 hours. So it is during this critical 24-hour journey down the fallopian tube that sperm must be present in the reproductive system for there to be any chance of pregnancy occurring. So that's from the female perspective, what's happening in the body. So we're looking at all those potential eggs and we're refining and refining until we get the healthiest egg ready for release at ovulation. When we're talking about the male reproductive system, it's a slightly different approach. And I know I talked about this a little bit when I did the male fertility episode a couple of weeks back. But from the male perspective, it's a bit of a different approach. So instead of starting with a lot and then refining for one to be released, it's a bit of a throw everything at them approach and hope one will stick. So at ejaculation, around 200 million sperm are released. And it's only around 15 to 45 million of these 200 million that will actually be healthy enough to have the potential to fertilize the egg. And from here, post-ejaculation, only around 400 of these will actually survive in the female reproductive tract. And then from here on in, if they are in the female reproductive tract, only about 40 of these 400 will actually be able to swim far enough and be strong enough to make their way up the fallopian tube, which is hopefully when the egg is coming down the fallopian tube and they can meet in the middle there. And even if they do meet in the middle, that you get a couple of really strong swimmers, they do get to the egg, there's generally only about one, if any, of these sperm which will survive capacitation, which is basically a mini explosion that needs to occur for the sperm to be able to penetrate the egg and for fertilization to occur. So you've got a lot of factors that need to align for that fertilization to occur. And even if all these factors do align, you've got your timing right, there's an egg coming down and fertilization is able to occur with one of these really strong, healthy swimmers, only about half of all fertilized eggs go on to develop. So about half of all fertilized eggs will fail to develop. So just because you have the fertilized egg, you've got all the timing right, it doesn't necessarily mean that this will result in a pregnancy. So, the reality is, you probably heard the statistics that 1 in 6 couples struggle with fertility issues. About 1 in 3 couples struggle if they get over 35. Your statistics drop to 1 in 3. And the reality is that even healthy couples in their 20s only have a 20 to 25% chance of conceiving each month. And I think you can see by looking at all these biological processes that need to align for pregnancy to occur as to why, even in healthy women in their 20s, there is only that small chance of conceiving each month. So although these statistics may just sound depressing, and you probably wonder why I'm talking about such a depressing fertility issue, but I actually personally, when I was struggling, and if you are struggling, I find these statistics actually quite comforting, because it doesn't necessarily mean anything is wrong if you are struggling. And understanding these biological processes and understanding what is occurring and when it is occurring gives you a great control over your fertility and your fertility health, because you are able to significantly impact and improve your chances of conceiving throughout all these biological processes. Because I know some doctors will say that you cannot influence the health of your eggs, that it's simply up to chance. But that's not scientifically correct. We have a lot more information now that we do know that you are able to influence the health of those eggs. Because when I spoke about the journey from the immature follicle to the mature egg, it takes around 90 days. And it is during these 90 days of development that most of the chromosomal changes which determine the viability of that egg occur. So it is during these critical 90 days that you have the ability to improve the DNA that you are passing on to your future baby or your potential baby. You have the ability to pass on the best genetic material possible, which not only, of course, increases your chances of conception occurring and of a healthy pregnancy, it can also help to improve the lifelong health of your future child. So it is during these critical 90 days prior to conception, and I know I talk about it a lot, but the nourishing and nurturing really doesn't start after birth. It doesn't start when your baby arrives, or this nourishing and nurturing. It doesn't even start when you fall pregnant. It actually starts during these 90 days prior to conception, when you, right now, are already carrying all the precious DNA which has the potential to become your future baby. So the nourishing and the nurturing really starts now. It's during these critical 90 days that you do have such a great influence over the health of your potential baby. And a lot of things work in a 90-day cycle. And this is why my fertility diet, when I talk about at the end of the book, I have a 90-day fertility diet program that you can follow over those 90 days to help improve the health of your egg and the sperm over those 90 days. And that's why my Fertility for You program, where I work one-on-one with patients, I do that over a 90-day cycle so that we do work through that whole growth process from immature follicle to mature egg to give you the best chance of creating that beautifully healthy egg and healthy sperm that does have the potential to become your future baby. And I'm very lucky to work with people in that pre-trimester, as I like to call it. So you've got the pre-trimester, which is the 90 days that you are already in if you are trying to conceive. So you're already in this pre-trimester, which in my opinion is one of the critical and one of the most important trimesters, because you really do have the ability to influence all this DNA. So I work with people in that pre-trimester, and I am lucky enough to work with people through the first trimester, the second trimester, and through to pregnancy. And again, always in these 90-day blocks. That's how reproduction works. It is a cycle. There's a pre-trimester, the first trimester, the second trimester. And I know I'm working with a patient at the moment who came to me and was told that she'd have a lot of difficulty conceiving. She came to me with high natural killer cells. So that does, negatively impact your chances of conception. But I was very lucky to work with her during that pre-trimester and now through the first trimester. And now we're working together and she's glowing and round now well into her second trimester. So it is really these critical 90-day blocks which can have a significant impact on your reproductive cycle. So we're talking about largely at the moment the pre-trimester, so those 90 days prior, which is so important. And there are so many things that you can do to influence the health of those eggs. And obviously this not only increases your chances of conceiving, but improves your chance of a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby. So just to have a look at some of these factors that you can improve, and the factors that affect, the health of your egg and the health of your sperm. And we firstly look at age, is probably the one that we cannot influence. As much as we like to, we can't change our age. And I think people focus on that a lot, but the good thing about that is that it's only one of a multitude of factors that affect the health of your egg. So even if you are older trying to conceive, that is one factor of many. And all of the others you can have an influence over. So the next one I touch on is weight. So being either underweight or overweight can have a significant impact on your fertility. There's smoking, which has a significant impact on your fertility. Alcohol and caffeine as well. And I have a lot of articles over conceivebaby.com.au if you want more information on these factors and what to do to improve your chances. And from there we look at diet and nutrition, which something I obviously work a lot with patients either independently or through my diet plans, getting a good diet and nutrition to help support the health of that egg and the sperm, because it really makes sense. What you are putting inside your body is what your body is using to create all this healthy DNA. So it's really important that you do have a healthy diet during this critical period, which then leads into the key nutrients. There are some key nutrients that are vital for pregnancy to be able to occur and to continue. And there are some nutrients that our body can't produce. We do need to get them from our diet. So we need to be looking at a healthy diet that incorporates these key nutrients. Again, some articles over on Conceived Baby where I talk about some of these key nutrients, which are so important for the health of the pregnancy. So getting a healthy diet with particularly the key nutrients that we need. And of course, a healthy lifestyle. Exercise, movement is vital to the health of our egg and our sperm. We talk about stress, which has a significant impact on our fertility health and can be a struggle when we are struggling with infertility. I know that the stress levels myself that I went through when I was struggling. So getting some help and support around that can really help with your fertility. Now, environment and toxins as well. I spoke about this a little bit when I talked about male fertility a couple of episodes ago. And particularly some careers and jobs which you are exposed to a larger amount of these toxins. And even in your household, you may unknowingly be exposed to some of these negative toxins. So how to reduce your exposure and just be aware of some of these toxins and how to reduce your exposure, which can significantly impact your fertility health. And I've got, again, a webinar on this in the Conceived Baby webinar series if you want to know more about toxins in your home and in your workplace. You may be interested in checking that one out as well. So health conditions, of course, as well. We've got endometriosis, PCOS, there's fibroids, you've got thyroid conditions. There are a lot of health conditions which will affect your fertility as well. So all this said, apart from number one, which is your age, and we can't change that, we can change and positively influence all of these other factors. So you can positively influence egg health, even if you are over 40. You can positively influence sperm health as well. And you also can positively influence uterine health, which is another really important factor in the reproductive process. I know I spoke about the way the egg and the sperm come together and what needs to happen for the egg to be able to fertilize. But then I guess that fertilized egg continues its way down the fallopian tube and towards the uterus. And we need a strong, healthy uterine lining that supports implantation. Because for some women, even with a healthy fertilized egg, the uterine lining may not be conducive to implantation. And these women are prone to early miscarriage or pregnancy loss. So that's another thing that you can work to improve is the health of the home. You want a nice, healthy home for this fertilized egg and this future baby to implant and grow and develop and thrive. So you can really influence the health of your uterine lining as well. So as you can see, there are so many factors that we can positively influence every step of the way. And obviously I work with patients across all of these aspects. But even if you are looking at these yourself and you pick one or two of these factors that you can focus on, you can still have a significant impact on your fertility by just focusing on a couple of these factors that can help improve your fertility health. So I hope that's given you a bit of an idea of why you may be struggling, what factors need to align for conception and pregnancy to occur, and as well as how you can positively influence that entire process and help increase the health of your egg and the sperm and improve your chances of producing that healthy, viable egg and the sperm that will have the potential to become your future baby and that healthy home for your baby to grow, develop, and thrive. So thanks for joining me today. That's a topic that I know I've been discussing a lot, so I hope that's helped you in your journey. But as always, I'd love to know what you are currently struggling with. What issues are you currently facing? What would you like to know more about? What would you like more information on? I'm basing these talking fertility discussions on what you want to know. So be sure to join the community and join the discussion over in the Facebook group, Conceive Baby with Tasha Jennings, where you can let me know what you're currently struggling with and I can actually help you. So thanks for being involved. You can also contact me through tashajennings.com.au. Send me an email. I love hearing from you. So thanks for being involved and for helping me to help you. I'm really looking forward to supporting you on your fertility journey.